Hey everyone, welcome to the 30-Day Speaker Summit. If this is one of your first interviews, I got an amazing guest. He's a TEDx public speaking coach. He's coached many individuals on public speaking, on confidence. And I'm super excited to, get to know you, Lucas, on a deeper level when it comes to speaking with confidence so we can learn the practicalities and the methods that have allowed you to be the confident version of you. And he's also a good friend of mine, mainly because he's Italian, but that is a whole nother conversation. So if this is, again, one of your first videos, my name is Daniel Francis. I'm the host of the 30-Day Speaker Summit, and I'm going to be introducing Lucas right now so you can get to know him, and then we'll kind of dig deep into this concept of speaking with confidence. So Lucas, you wouldn't expect someone diagnosed with anxiety condition to become a public speaking trainer, but that's what Lucas did. He's the founder of Level Up Living, which specializes in helping entrepreneurs to speak with confidence on stage and on video. Lucas is an international renowned communication trainer that has been featured in Forbes. It's a big deal. Is a best-selling author and is an official TEDx speaking coach and a TEDx speaker. So when it comes to public speaking, let's just say he's the guy. So Lucas, welcome to the summit, sir.
Hey, thank you so much for having me here. Excited to be here.
Yes, I can't wait to kind of get, the one thing I'm really excited about this, Lucas, is you have the experience. I think there's a lot of people that teach public speaking, but they don't actually have the credibility of they've been on stage. I know you're preparing for a talk right now, and there's something that you need to go through to really prepare it, to really do amazing. And I think people can teach it, but doing it is a whole new game. So, let's just kind of begin this summit with, I hope I didn't take any jabs at anyone, but it's the truth. So let's just kind of begin with this. What does speaking with confidence mean to you, and why is it so important for people to learn?
Well, okay. Speaking with confidence for me is, I have this hierarchy of confidence, which we'll get into later, but it's a system that we go through. And so when we're looking at speaking with confidence, what it means to me is it's the ability to, one, believe in yourself, but more importantly, that it's to showcase that and share your message with the world. And why it's important is so many amazing professionals or entrepreneurs, business owners, they have amazing products, amazing services, they help people. But in today's world, if you're not putting it out there, people won't find you. And so that's why it's essential for you to grow your business, for you to make a bigger impact in the world, for you to make the income that you deserve, for you to actually become the best version of yourself. It requires putting yourself out there. And that's why speaking is, I'm obviously biased, but in business, I don't think there's any skill that's more important than the ability to put yourself out there, because, the fear of public speaking is the number one most common fear. So if most of your competitors aren't putting themselves out there because they're too afraid, and you don't even have to be good. Okay, that's the thing. You don't have to be a good speaker. You just have to put yourself out there, and you already elevate yourself above your competition. And the audience, most people, when they see somebody doing something that they can't, even if you're not a good speaker, they're going to be impressed that you have the courage to put yourself out there. And that positions you as a leader. Now, if you're good, that's even better. But that's the thing, is people put pressure on themselves thinking they have to be good. You don't. Just get up there and do it. And that's how you build that skill set.
So I got a big question. Let's kind of go back a couple of years, because I love people's journey, and I think that I'm sure it's important to you as well, especially getting on stage. Mm-hmm. Take me back a couple of years. Take me back to, maybe a more anxious Lucas, maybe someone who couldn't just jump on this video right now and be the confident version of who you are right now. So take me back a couple of years. Tell me the journey.
I'll take you back yesterday. No. Yesterday I wouldn't do it. Today I have New Year. No, a few years ago, I mean, there's a few different places to this. So you mentioned it before, for 15 years, I struggled with anxiety and panic attacks, and I was afraid to tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody because I was afraid of what they think. I was afraid of rejection. My inner narrative was that I wasn't good enough. And a lot of that came because the panic attack started happening when I was in wrestling. And there was 60 other people on the wrestling team, and there was only one person that would consistently run out, go to the washroom because he thought his heart was going to explode, run to the washroom, throw water in my face, come back. And the feedback loop that I got was that there's something wrong with me because nobody else is leaving except me. And so that narrative, continued. and for 15 years until it got to the point where I burned out it was 2011. In 2011, I burned out and I ended up, the doctor sent me to the mental health, the mental ward of the hospital. And I was there in the mental health ward of the hospital thinking, how did I let myself get here? And how I got there was because I never told people what I was struggling with. And so the thing is, if you're struggling, you can't get help if you don't tell people what's going on.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And would you say, would you say that this is how you were raised? Like if we went even to a younger Lucas, because I know like, I don't want to say Italians, but I know I know he agrees. I know for a lot of Italians, we're very passionate and there's a lot of, I know for my mom, it's like almost like embedded in us to like, I'll be honest, just have the anxiety. So would you say it stemmed from that? And then, you were raised like that for so long, or?
I think there's many things to it. There's many layers to it. I mean, first and foremost, my parent, I think I'm the luckiest person on the planet. Like I have amazing parents. They were so nice and kind. So I don't have a story where, I had a bad upbringing. I had great parents. That said, I think there are a lot of cultural issues, like you mentioned, and it could be Italians, but also I think a lot of immigrant families in general, when they go to a new country, or even in their own country, it's a lot of shame and stigma around struggles, whether it be mental health, whether it be stuttering, whether it be anything. It's like, hey, let's, keep this in the household. It could be alcoholism, could be drug abuse, whatever it is. So that's something that I saw a lot of, where it wasn't talked about. And so, that kind of creates this thing where you just keep things to yourself.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you have that perspective, because that's awesome. It's a very mature way of looking at it. So then let's take us to the Lucas of facing the fear of the anxiety. So was it public speaking that really took you off, or was it like, what was the turning point? For me, it was a network marketing event where I public spoke, but that was me. So what was the thing of like, I'm going to try this?
To speak in public, I think, if I look at it now, it was 2010. 2010, actually, before I went to the hospital, I was laid off from my job. And that was a big one because I felt like I lost my identity and sense of self. And I felt like I was falling behind. Everyone else is passing, moving forward with their life, and I was stuck. And I signed up for a martial arts class, and I'll never forget, it was the second class. I'm in there. It's this narrow loft. And all of a sudden, my heart starts racing. My chest starts tightening up. Breathing gets rapid, and it feels like the walls are closing in on me, and I'm having a panic attack. And I just freak out. I run out of the class, and I just collapse face first in the lobby on the floor. And I hear Danny, who's a head instructor. He comes out and he's like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And I'm there, like face down. I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine." And that was the way I would just keep people away, right? I'm fine. And he didn't turn away from me. I felt his hand on the back of my shoulder, and he just said, "Look, you're lying down on the lobby in the middle of class. Don't tell me you're fine." And it was in that moment I realized I couldn't run anymore. I'd been running away from this for 15 years and I was exhausted. And so he was the first person that I opened up to. And I said, "Hey, I have panic attacks sometimes." And he said 7 words, Daniel, that changed my life forever. And that was, "What do you need to feel safe?" And it was those 7 words. What do you need to feel safe? I never considered those words for all that time of running away. I didn't think anyone cared. I didn't want to be a burden on anybody. And here's this guy who's a martial arts teacher, second class. He's a relative stranger. Why would he care about what I need to feel safe? And so that shifted, because I said to him, "Look, if a drill gets too intense, can I stop it?" And he's like, "Yeah, just raise your hand and I'll stop it immediately." And it was having that shred of control, but also that openness, that gave me my platform to face my fears on a very regular basis. And so for the next 2 years, I did a lot of exposure work there to overcome, like to feel fears and overcome it. And then that got me started up. Then the next year I went to the mental hospital because I burnt out. And that's where I realized that the stigma around fears and anxieties really hold people back. And that's where I started speaking.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Thank you.
And and how did you make this transition into like public speaking? How did you really get all the way here, man? That's like because I want to say, if you had someone with anxiety attacks and you had all this to handle one of the biggest fears on planet Earth, and I think they said, I think people say the second highest fear is like being burnt alive or dying. You handle the number one fear in the entire. So how did you go from the guy lying on the floor to like the guy speaking on stage in front of all these people?
It was connection with something that was bigger than myself. And so I had a mission, which was, I realized before I went to the hospital and with the martial arts, I legitimately thought I was the only person on the planet that was having panic attacks and anxiety, because nobody was talking about it. I mean, now it's comical. It's a common thing. But at that time, it was the isolation and the shame and the self-stigma. I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I the only person that's struggling? And so once I went through the program at the hospital, I started going on different websites and Googling, and I started seeing all these people sharing their stories. Wow, that's similar to me. Or wow, they have it even worse. And I realized that I just wanted to let people know that they weren't alone. And it was funny, like I had no business background. I had a lot of people say that I was insane, I was crazy, because I didn't. I had no background, I had no experience, but what I did have was the commitment to tell people and let them know that, hey, you're not alone. Because struggling, I believe that struggling in silence, that's a place that you can't get out of. Like, it's very hard to get out of that when you don't have help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm super excited to hear kind of like how, like what really, because I really want to get this point across to a lot of people that maybe face something similar to you, and then living a life of feeling confident with your speaking. Because I know for myself, like I always lived in the background. I didn't want to talk, right? Because I felt like I was going to be judged. To then living a life of absolute confidence, to be able to speak your mind all the time. Okay, I feel like you have that within you now, that you're able to speak your mind, whatever it is. And I know whether it's finding a dream partner, whether it's finding a dream job, like I feel like a lot of things changed in my life, and I would like to kind of hear like the subtle changes that really happened. Were there changes? Were there not any changes? Like what was the major things that shifted in your life?
So there's a few defining moments there. One of them was my first talk, my first public talk. It was my old hockey goalie coach. He was working at a university, and he had me come in, and he's like, hey, if you want to give a talk, there's this nursing students that you could give a talk. Sure. So I go in, and I emailed the instructor before. I'm like, hey, like, what do you want me to talk about? And I think she thought I was an experienced speaker, because she's like, oh, it's like, oh, you'll be fine. Just go. You know what to do. I'm like, no, I legitimately have no idea what to do. I've never done this before. And so I went in, I had an hour, and I just rambled. It was this meandering mess. And I was so nervous. I remember there was like 40 students staring at me. And we opened up to the Q&A session at the end of it. And the first question is this young lady, and she goes, so now that you're back in regular society, what does it feel like? And I was like, back in regular society? Yeah, she was serious too. I didn't. And what happened was, I was so nervous in my delivery that she thought I'd been locked up in a mental institution, and this was part of my reintegration with society. And so, like, I think people yes, I did go to the mental hospital, right? I was in the hospital in the mental health ward, but I wasn't locked up. I went in, I drove in, I saw the psychiatrist, I did my exposure work, got my plan, and I went home, to my parents, and I had a job. I had a normal life. I had a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, but I was functioning. But, I'll tell you that after that, I got in my car, and like the rest of the Q&A was a blur, because I was just like, I didn't know what to expect. I was like, this is crazy. And I'll tell you, I got in my car, and as soon as I sat in there, I just broke out into tears, because every fear, every insecurity that I had came to the surface. The stories that you're not good enough. What are you trying to do? Who do you think you are? Because the feedback, like the real world feedback that I got was, here I am trying to be a speaker. And the feedback that I get is that I must have been locked up in a mental institution, and this is part of it. So I'm like, clearly I'm not where I need to be. And that was a defining moment. The reason I say that is, for anyone that's watching this, there's going to be these certain moments where you have an opportunity that comes up, and I frame it as an opportunity. It was a devastating moment, but it gave me clarity where I had a decision to make. So it was either I gave up and I go back to my job with the government, live my life, give up on this dream, or I invest in a coach or mentor to help me get and build a dream. And so that was the thing, because I always believed in my vision. Like I knew that there was something there and I could make it work, but I also knew that there was a lot of things I didn't know: business, structure, putting this together. And so I was faced with that decision. It's like, do I give up on my dream, or do I find someone to help me get there? And I think it was like the next week, I went to an event and I saw the speaker up there, and he was a coach, and he was talking about build a business to support your lifestyle and, create events and do live events. I'm like, okay. And I hired him, relate this, probably Italian parents. My mom asked me, she's like, how much was it? And I go, $2,250. And she's like, you can't afford to do that. She's like, you can't afford it. And I'm like, I can't afford not to, because I can always make more money. But my dream, it's like, you know what it was? I sat there and go, at least this way I'll have clarity. Because if I hire this guy and it doesn't work out, at least I can say I tried. There's so many areas I didn't try and I gave up, and then I would have that regret.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful. And so take us to the next event where you rocked it, and tell us where maybe you didn't rock it, but you were like, I got this.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah, absolutely. So hired a coach. First thing he did. So I was doing these one-day events before for, $97 one day. And the first thing he said is, okay, you have to add something after it. Like, what's next? And so he's like, look, you're going to do a 2-day event. It's going to be $500. And I was like, oh my gosh, like $500. Like, that's crazy. I don't know if I can charge that. And he's like, look, you have to, like, this is, people will want to work with you. It's the next step. And I was so nervous. And I had 12 people at this next event. So I had 12 people. And at the end of it, I went and I passed out the sign-up form. And within 5 minutes, I go, and there was 6 pieces of paper, 6 credit card numbers. And I'm sitting there going, did I just make $3,000? Like and the reason that was important was growing up, my dad worked for the municipal government, and I would always see his paychecks on the counter. And it was about $1,500 every 2 weeks. And that completely changed my paradigm, because I looked at it, I said, hey, I just made $3,000 in a day. Like, yes, I still have to deliver the event and do that. But mentally, that changed it, because that is when this business became a reality. That's where it became something that wasn't a pipe dream anymore. And all the doubters and all the people saying you couldn't do it and you're crazy, I'm like, I just made $3,000. And I can live off of that. If I do one of these a month, I can live off of that. And I broke down in tears again, because I was like, this is real. And it's not giving up on your dream when the doubt is, you're just surrounded and you're getting beat up by all the doubts and the insecurities and the fears. When you have that moment, it just all comes together. You're like, I got it.
That's awesome. And my next question for you, Lucas, is, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are watching this right now, and there's most likely that they have this pull as well, as like, I feel like there's something in me, because I feel like, how this would tie into you is like, did you always have this gnawing, like you have this like gift within you? So I feel like there's a lot of people that are watching this right now, and they're like scared to make that transition and that jump. So did you always have this within you, and then you just knew this was your path?
No. I think you'd probably hear a lot of people say, yeah, and I was a born entrepreneur. I never had any ambitions to ever have a business. I never had that. My parents, they weren't entrepreneurial by nature. I don't know. I tell people that I was an accidental entrepreneur, because I just had that, what happened? I had that moment where it shifted, and I was like, look, I really want to let people know that if you're struggling and you're alone, you're not alone. There's other people that are going through it, and you don't have to struggle in silence. And so even the name Level Up Living, I'll put this on record here. Level Up Living. We're in 2021. All you're hearing for the past couple of years, level up this, up level that. I had that in 2011. Okay, 2011. I'm telling you, 2011. Okay, 2011, I had levelup.com. I've had it trademarked for years, and now it's trendy. Everyone's saying, oh, level up. Okay, cool. That's good. But how I came up with that was when I was going through my anxiety recovery, I came across Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I saw it's like, air, food, shelter, move up to the self-actualization. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's the journey that I'm on. And I'm on this journey to level up my life. That's where Level Up Living came from. as I saw Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it gave me a roadmap to follow and to improve my life. And that's where I started. So I was just there doing that. And I had no business ambition, but it became one.
Why public speaking?
Why public speaking? So here's the thing. I'm actually not passionate about public speaking. And that might be something some people might say. Yeah, some people might say that's business suicide. But I'm not. Public speaking to me, it's a platform for a person to develop as a human. My passion is personal development. My passion is people becoming the best version of themselves. What public speaking does, whether it's on stage or speaking on video, is it gives you this pressure cooker that brings up the fears and insecurities to the surface. Because so many people, they have, fears, they have insecurities, they have, their own negative dialogue, but in a day-to-day level, it's not magnified. But again, it's a big fear. So if you're in front of an audience, your fear of, or what are people going to think? Are they going to judge me? Am I going to be rejected? Am I going to be good enough? That gets brought to the surface. And why I love it is it gives you an opportunity to get in that pressure cooker, which brings up your fears to the surface, and then we can address it, and then you can overcome it. So it gives you a platform to go, okay, and then you do it, and you're deathly afraid, and then you do it, and you're like, okay, that wasn't as bad. That was okay. It's still terrible, but it wasn't as bad. Okay, so that's a win. And then you start getting comfortable, and then you start becoming better. So that's what I do love about public speaking, because most people, if I say to them, hey, do you have, fears? Are you really hard on yourself? Are you constantly beating yourself up? Are you afraid to give up control and just go for it? They're like, I don't know, maybe. But then if I say, hey, are you nervous to speak in front of an audience? Like, oh yeah, definitely. So they understand that, and that's the entry point. But my programs are all a bait and switch. You come in for public speaking, you're getting personal development, because it's not the words that matter. People want that. Top 3 things people want. They want the right words. They don't want to look bad, and they want to overcome their fears, right? But it's not the words. It's not looking good. This is all inside out. We got to go inside first to build up.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's very similar to myself. Like when someone who stutters, it's just like, give me the speech technique.
Yeah.
Give me the tapping technique. It's like, buddy, we got to go deep inside of you right now. Yeah. We got to be handling what's happening up here.
Absolutely. So I love it. That's so good.
Yeah. So it's funny because for me, the way I overcame my stutter was through public speaking. It was like, I didn't believe myself. Like I had like an upline. I don't know if you ever know too much about network marketing, but someone recruits you and they're your upline, right? And he was a really good public speaker. That's what sold me on it. So I would bring all my friends over to my house and he would give the talk. Right. And then it was like 3-4 months, and I was starting to actually build a really good team. I was trying to hit like new ranks in the company. And then he threw the ball at me. He's like, dude, enough's enough. Like, I'm not going to keep doing this for you. He's like, we're going to invite all these people over and you're going to be the one to actually give the talk. We're going to tell everyone that I'm coming. Because if we knew that if Paul wasn't coming, no one's showing up. So we're like, Paul's coming, guys. Okay. And then, Lucas is coming. Okay, great. Let's do it. And then everyone came over and they're like, so where's Paul? I'm like, yeah, I'm giving the talk today. and that moment was such a defining moment in my life. I was like, I know my voice. And I think that's kind of what you do for people. You get people to find their voices. And, the last kind of question I have for you before we actually wrap up this interview, and we'll do another interview. So for everyone who hasn't upgraded yet, I do a bonus interview with Lucas where he's going to be teaching more practical skills of a step-by-step process of learning how to go from where you are right now to a confident speaker. So if you haven't upgraded, I don't know what you're doing, so be sure to upgrade. But my last question too, Lucas, is what really shifted in your life? Like, did you find that you're able to like build better relationships with others? Like it's almost like, what is the result of confident speaking? What gets created in your life? Because I know what's done for me. And I would love to kind of hear your feedback on, because I feel like it's a whole new world.
I love it. Hey, one thing too is, I don't know if you have footage of you stuttering.
Yeah.
Speaking of stuttering, but if you do, I think you definitely, it'd be advisable to show that.
100%.
A lot of people would see you now and like, yeah, because they're going to doubt you. It's just like people a lot of times will doubt me. Like, you never had anxiety. I'm like, dude, I didn't want to live when I was at the hospital. But they react to face value. And I think a lot of times there's just distrust, which rightfully so, where they're like, oh, this person's a marketer. They're just trying to sell me a sob story to get me to buy. And And there can be some validity to that for a lot of the industry that we're in. But if you have that evidence, that would be very impactful.
100%.
Bring it back to your point of what it does. It completely transforms your life, because again, with confidence, that's belief in your abilities and yourself and your abilities. So that's definition: confidence, belief in yourself and your abilities. And what happens is this transition that happened was, before it was, what could I do? So it's very boxed in. It's like, what could I do? What am I naturally gifted at? But then it opens up when you have that confidence. It's, what do I choose to do? And that comes from a place of freedom, where you sit back and like, okay, I can do anything. Because again, people think speaking confidence, it's a gift. People say, oh, I'm introverted, I'm shy, I can't do it. No, that's not true. It's a skill. It's a skill. And any skill that you dedicate time and you practice and you implement, you'll get better at it. So a lot of times people look at it and they say, well, I can't do that because it's not a natural gift, or I'm not extroverted. It's like, yeah, there could be definitely some advantages, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. So in terms of that, but it's how you show up as a person, in terms of what you tolerate in your life, your value, your belief system. Everything stems from your self-image. And that's why speaking with confidence is a way for you to show up. So everything builds off of that.
Cool. Well, Lucas, this has been awesome. People want to get a hold of you, Lucas. Where's the best way if they want to get to know more of kind of what you do and, kind of the program that you offer to transform people? Where's the best way they can learn more and reach out to you?
Go to the original Level Up, which is levelupliving.com. Check us out. I have 2 programs that I offer publicly. One is Speak with Confidence. The other is Confident on Video. So one is for speaking on stage, others for video. Hey, one thing I do want to share. I know you probably
Yeah. Share it out.
One thing I want to say, you brought it up. You brought it up earlier. It was a good segue. You mentioned about finding your voice. And I want to do that. The one thing I want to add for anybody that hasn't upgraded, I'm going to share the concept for you. This is the same concept I'm doing in my TEDx talk. In the next phase, I'll go deeper into it. So I'm going to plant the seed there. If you haven't, definitely upgrade. But, so here's the thing. If we look at it, let's break it down. I'll do it in 2 minutes. Number one fear of public speaking. Okay, why do people fear speaking in public? Well, they're afraid to speak their truth. They're afraid to speak their truth. They're coming from a place of what do people want to hear? What's not going to rock the boat? But the problem is they're afraid of rejection, but it comes at a cost of guaranteed self-rejection because it's not their truth. So how do you get the confidence to speak your truth? Well, that's the journey, and I call it reclaiming your voice. I'll predict it right now. That's the next thing. You're going to be hearing a ton of this. Start the trend, level up living. The next trend, I kid you not, I'm glad I'm recording this. I haven't said this before, but document it, okay? This is January 4th, 2021.
That's good.
Reclaim your voice is the next concept. And the reason that it is, when most people grow up, they're fully self-expressed. There's no fear. You've been around kids. All they do is speak their truth. Anyone who's got a kid or a parent, or around kids, they always have funny stories about speaking their truth or saying inappropriate things. So they're fully self-expressed. But yet, why is it as an adult, the number one most common fear is speaking in public? So when people say, I don't have it, it's like, no. It's not that you have it. It's that you lost your voice somewhere along the way. Now, you got shut down, you got rejected, you got hurt, it wasn't safe to speak. Something happened. But at some point, you decided to say, okay, it's too dangerous to put myself out there, so I'm going to hold it in. Cool. Now, to reclaim your voice, there's 3 phases to it. Phase 1 is find your voice. So you got to find it. How you find it? One question is, what is your truth? That's all that matters. That's the first one. Second phase is own it. So now that you know what to say, the second phase is own it. And that's where you give yourself permission to speak your truth, to put it out there, saying, I don't know how it's going to come out. I don't know how people are going to react, but I'm going to give myself permission to be authentic and share how I really feel. And then the third phase is amplify it. So own it phase, you're proving it to yourself. You're proving that your words matter, that you're good enough to speak, that you deserve to be heard. The next phase is amplify it. And that's where you connect to making an impact in the world, to making a movement. Sometimes people think, oh, who am I to make a movement? I don't have a big business. I don't have a big calling. You absolutely do, because every one of us, you have your role model to people around you, in your family, your friends, your community, and the world. And so when you amplify it, you connect with a movement that's bigger than you, a cause that's bigger than you, and that allows you to transcend your fears to be fully seen and heard. And that, my friends, is how you reclaim your voice. 3 phases. Find your voice, own it, and then amplify it. You do that, you'll be rocking it. And you want more tactical details? Upgrade.
Holy value, man. If you haven't upgraded, I don't know what you're doing. Lucas, thank you so much. I appreciate this. I'm super excited to see you in the next interview. Again, for everyone, we will see you in the next interview if you haven't upgraded yet. And again, my name is Daniel Francis. This is Lucas Mattiello, right? And I'm the host of the 30-Day Speaker Summit. We'll see you guys later. Peace.